everybody. It is February. It's Colette Baron-Reid, and I'm here to do the energy forecast for February. Now, if you've been here before, you know I do cards for the month, but what I'm going to do is change it up a little bit. So I've already done one reading. I've meditated for about an hour on what I got downloaded with, and then I did a reading, and now I'm going to tell you what I got. I've made all these notes. It's on my computer. And then we're going to do another reading now that I have you here with me, and we're going to see if the energy has changed at all and get some more specifics. So in a more general way, and again, these universal energy reports, if you will, are predictive only a little because they're really more prescriptive. So for example, if we do this, we're likely going to experience that. That's the way I see this. But keep in mind that there's no such thing as absolute determinism. So I'm really looking at an evolution. It's an evolutionary reading about where we are heading. But I can't tell what your choices are going to be, but I can tell you what's in the highest good. And we're going to have a great, interesting month. How about that? So I think the first thing that I tuned into about February, and it's interesting because I don't know if you guys have read my book, Uncharted, or You're in the Right Place, but I have a very strange bunch of guides. They call themselves Fred, and they're a chorus of voices, and they don't always come around. So I'm not one of these people that say, oh, I check in with my guides like my friend Lee Harris does. It's not a channeling thing. They just kind of show up. So they've been really freaking active since January. And I'm like, okay, what do they have to say? So let's talk about what I tuned into. So I'm getting a very consistent message, and it is about paying attention and choosing more consciously. And that is for everybody right now, even though like we're in a 1 year in numerology, which is about new beginnings, etc. And we should feel like, oh yeah, new year, but it's actually, it's being drawn in. We're not going so fast. It's telling us, slow down, pay attention, choose more consciously. And it's not like the universe is yelling at us right now. It's kind of going like, hello, hey, this part matters. So I know people love predictions about the future, but I believe we need to create our future, and then we can see, right? I mean, it's so important because I'm going to share with you a lot of what I tune into about what happens when we give our power away to too many predictions, because I think it's dangerous. I think now more than ever, this is the most beautiful part of humanity where we can really see ourselves as conscious co-creators. So we've got the universe going like, hello, this part matters. Now, we know that February is Aquarius. Oh, I love Aquarius. My mom and my sister's Aquarius, and I have some best friends who are Aquarius. So I really love Aquarian influence, and my progressed moon is in Aquarius. And so I love the feeling of it. Themes around community. And yes, the future. We're going to talk about the future. We are, right? It's how do we belong together? This is all front and center of what February's energy is all about. And it really isn't abstract, because I know a lot of, we talk about in this more esoteric realm, sounds abstract or theoretical, but it isn't. It's very, very personal. And people feel the world right now and really noticing it. It's in the body and then the nervous system. So I've always taught intuition is felt through the body. Our life is actually felt through the body. And when I wrote the book, The Art of Manifesting, it's an embodied practice of co-creating the future in the now, right? So I think it was, I don't know where I heard it, but may have been Lee, might have been somebody else's. I don't know. I don't watch a lot of videos, but humanity had evolved mentally for a period of time, but now it's somatic, right? We're evolving somatically. That's probably why I started getting into all of that in the past few years, mostly because my own tolerance for overwhelm changed dramatically. My tolerance for noise has shrunk, and I believe that is true for all of us now. I kind of tend to go through something before the collective does, and like going, oh yeah, I know what this is. So anyway, if you're feeling super tired, like really sensitive or less interested in over explaining yourself, that's actually really good, right? This is not an issue, right? It's like you're adapting to changing circumstances. And it's not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign of this adaptation that we're all going through right now. Now, one of the best parts about February is on the new moon eclipse in Aquarius, we enter the year of the fire horse. And fire horse energy is all about movement and truth, right? Not about panic and chaos, right? That's really, really important to know that the energy of the year starting in February does not bode well for panic or chaos. It is much more focused, truthful. So fire horse energy is not asking you to run or go anywhere really fast, even though it is a sign of movement, but it helps us stop being frozen, right? Because a lot of us are frozen and like, I don't know what to do or say, especially if many of us that are in the middle of things that, certainly for me in my profession, I look at all aspects of things, but I still have my own personal experience with life, right? Life on life's terms. So what fire horse energy does for everybody here is it breaks stagnation. So if you have felt a bit stagnant or overwhelmed over the last year, or even at the velocity of how life seems to be changing, what this energy gives us, this energy comes to all of us, allows us to ask a question. What is the next truest step for me? Right? Not the biggest step, not the most giant step, not the loudest step, right? But the next right action for you, right? It's not about how do I map the whole thing. That's not it. It's not it, because a lot is going on. Again, this is part of the collective evolution of all of us, which is what these videos are about. So how it shows up is where people will question an old role, or, outdated rules, for example, identities that no longer fit. But it's really less about rebellion and more about clarity, right? So, and I'm a very rebellious person. I'm like, no, but it's really about, oh, I get this. Like some of the, we go through these extremes where like all of a sudden this is terrible, and then this is terrible, and then that's terrible. Then it's like, wait a sec. Well, maybe somewhere in between those two things is what's right, so this month is that kind of month where you actually also get that little bit of detachment that's wonderful from with February energy. It's a little bit more detached. It's very good for Aquarius. So you'll recognize that you have the capacity to recalibrate. That's the point. Not to make anything bad. It's more about choice. Ah, yes, not that. This. That sounds like a ChatGPT thing, like not this, but that. But anyway, so that's not what I meant by that. But okay, so it's about our choices. So what does that even mean that we have choices, right? Because I don't have a choice. We all have a choice. We have a choice of how we respond to life. When we are in a recalibration moment, right? When new energy comes in, we're saying like, what can't I unsee anymore? Right? This is about noticing. So what do you actually pay attention to this month? That's what the reading asked us to do. Pay attention to what's in front of you and choose. And you can be gentle with yourself. You don't have to be harsh. And really check where your energy is leaking. I've been reading some really interesting articles about how the advent of AI, because I'm not against AI at all, but I'm against the use of it in some ways. I want it to be monitored because I know it can be quite dangerous too, but hey, it's here. It's the genie's left, genie's out of the bottle. So often the things that are created, technology allows us to escape our humanity, right? And we really need less escape, less distraction, and more presence. So the thing that we want to focus on this month is asking yourself, where's my energy leaking? What feels outdated or forced? Because what was good last year, you might actually say like, I'm kind of done this. Like I noticed for myself, I am completely a different person. Like whatever work I was doing brought me into a very different place in terms of my energy and where I want to place that energy. And it was I think it was part of this evolution of choosing, and also knowing that I need to ask myself what helps my nervous system settle. And of course, that's why I worked on all those processes. And in the book, The Art of Manifesting, because it is all somatic. It's how do we calm our nervous system down so that we can choose, right? So then, not looking at big choices, going to what is the small, truest choice that you can make that keeps you aligned and feel. Now, I know the word alignment gets overused too. Like, what does it mean? It means when you're coherent or in harmony with what you say you want, your values, right? What are your values, right? So what are those things, and are you living those values, right? So it's not about certainty, because I think we kind of all have to agree that certainty is something that nobody really has these days. But we can be discerning. We can be discerning. And when we stop allowing ourselves to be too distracted, and by the way, I'm looking out the window a lot because there's a whole bunch of turkeys out my window, like a lot of them. And I can't move the computer so you could see them, but it's pretty funny. Anyhow, so we have this alignment, sense of feeling like I'm on point. I'm in this, I'm right in the right zone. Right. So there's nothing about rushing forward. As a matter of fact, whenever you rush forward, you're going to be noticing that you're going to feel like, wait, I'm rushing forward in molasses. Right. And be very discerning about what you allow in your head, what you read, what you get exposed to. The only person that can monitor that is you. Right. So I think, it's funny. It's the first time I ever really heard my guy, Fred say the word for February is maturity. I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's so we're being asked to mature, to energetically and collectively and emotionally mature, which means we need to settle down and choose consciously, right? And that's this maturation is how real evolution happens anyway, right? It's not an overnight thing. It's consciously, one step at a time. It's micro steps, right? So those are the kind of things that we want to talk about. The other thing that I want to chat about is something that I have noticed a lot. And, the question that comes up in my courses, etc., and even in my friends, right? So the question we ask ourselves, right, especially since Aquarius is the humanity sign, right? It's about humanity. Well, how do I stay human in all of this that's going on external to me, right? So all of that's already been set in motion. I'm super tired often and overwhelmed, and we have to meet ourselves where we are, right? So there is a kind of a strange anxiety I'm noticing with everybody, and it's not really blatant fear, although obviously we're noticing that too. But it's that what I'm hearing from people is that we're actually tired of the future. We're tired of being told the possibilities of the future. Look at all these things. I think that's why I started the reading by suggesting that predictions can be quite dangerous now, because they mess with our nervous systems, because we stop being in present moment awareness. I mean, there's so much information on the internet now, so many predictions, so many different opinions, different people who say that they're experts telling you what's coming next for sure. And your body's going, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. And I've actually never seen that before, where the collective energy is like that. But it's a really intelligent response. So that is a protection response. Your nervous system's going, okay. So that's why I'm also saying, please, it is fine to have goals and to, choose the future that you want to have, but you still have to take one small micro step every day towards those things, right? And owning the way you want to feel requires you to slow down, and requires you to not be so distracted, and requires you to be conscious, to choose and ask what's important, right? So one of the downloads I got was like, we're being asked to stay present longer rather than to think faster or prepare harder for what's coming. No, just stay present longer. And I think that was really describing how I started the year. I feel way more present for longer periods, right? And I personally are less, anxious about the future because I know if I can stay present, and I really want you guys to get that. So if you feel foggy and you feel a little slower or less interested in like looking at the headlines or the forecast, that's actually really smart. Your body's going, don't bother looking at that, right? It's like, instead of, like, we do ask, obviously, because I talk about the future, creating the future, how do we deal with that, but I always say the future is created in the now. It's created right now. So we can say, what does the year hold? But then there's this giant, a million bunch of of question marks in the air, and so many different people saying different things depending on where you look. But the better question is, like, what helps me feel regulated today as I choose my next right action, right? And the body is where we need it to land. We need that body of ours to go, oof, we need that, right? So February, there's a lot going on in February. It is, but it's more about a shift in the way we use our discernment, and it's learning how to move forward without getting burnt out, right? So without abandoning ourselves. I think that's something that's also come up a lot in my discussions with a lot of different people. It's like, how do we not abandon ourselves, also without jumping into a fray that we don't feel is ours to jump into? So it's a very complex time in humanity's evolution, right? So remember, you don't need to keep up with the future. You need to stay connected with yourself, right? And then you notice, like, whoa, look at that, isn't that great? It's not about, I'm fixated on this thing, because then you are burning yourself out. I have a card in one of my decks called the Ghost Lands, and that talks about how we burn out by staying too long in the potential of the future, and we forget the steps in between or regret about the past, right? We need to stay human. Real change happens one step at a time, okay? Just remember, you're not behind. And also, if you're tired, good sign. Means that you're tired of all of it, right? And you want to choose something else that gives you energy, that doesn't leak your energy. Really, really important. And when you regulate yourself, and regulation is about making those choices that make you feel good. All right. And knowing what is yours to own and what is not yours to own. Okay. So I typically don't do these readings like this, but that's everything that I got from Fred and everything that I downloaded. And if you're just new and you just tuned in, I am going to say that I have been back in contact with these guides that come and go as they please. I wish that I had a sustainable, they just come when I need them, I guess. So yeah, through this writing exercise I did, I got all that information. So now let's do the cards. So I am going to choose 10 cards for this month, and we're going to just see what are the things we need to be aware of. Also could be events, etc., that we need to know about, or that, again, not so much a prediction of an event that each one of us would be, but it's more about the event of energy, right? So the energy of an event as opposed to the actual event. So perception, awesome. This is such a great card. So if we look at, and this is from my very first Oracle card deck called Wisdom of Avalon, the Wisdom of Avalon, which is going out of print actually, but it's one of my favorite things because the first one I did. So it's all about perception, looking at the world through which lens are you perceiving the world through, right? So, three people could be sitting, beside each other and looking at the exact same thing, but their perception has been marked by how they've been conditioned to see a certain thing, what their past told them, or what they've, where they're likely going towards, right? So we all see things through a specific lens. And what we want to do is to see the lens that is true for us, not the lens that we're conditioned to see through. So fear, all these kind of things, especially when it comes to predicting the future. It's like, oh, this is going to be so terrible. You don't know that, right? You don't know that. Like, we have to stay in the day and perceive it. Like, honestly, we can live 24 hours a day. That's what I learned in recovery. I've been just turned 40 years clean and sober, and I've learned that really clearly. We need to remember to stay in 24 hours. Yes, you can have plans. Absolutely co-create your future, do your drawings, your vision boards. What I teach all of that. But the only way those things actually arrive is when you stay in one day at a time and surrender the results, right? So super important. The perception is, what lens am I seeing through right now? So basically, what am I making this mean? What else could it mean? What does it mean for me truthfully? Truthfully, really me, not what I've been told. What is it true for me? These are kind of questions that few of us actually ask. So what is crossing us to help us? And that is messages from spirit. So the hawk, great books. I've written, a number of books about oracles, omens, and signs, and we are always sent a sign from spirit. We always are, or call it the conscious universe, whatever the field. There's always an engagement going on. So pay attention. Your intuition will tell you, again, in order for your intuition to come online, you need your nervous system a little bit regulated. Otherwise, your instinct for survival is the one that you're listening to. And that means that you're going to be constantly looking for potential threats, which is not intuition. Okay, so there's two things get confused. So here it's saying, right, intuitive messages come when you regulate your nervous system. The perception would be that I am safe. That would be a really good one. That's what I tell myself every day. I am safe. And no matter what, spirit knows more than me. Whatever is meant to be will be for me. But I will take the next right action. The owl card is the foundation, which is wisdom after betrayal in this case, right? So where have we deceived ourselves? That's really, really important to understand self-deception. And it can be in so many different ways. Each one of us has experienced it, where we may convince ourselves that something is true when it's actually not true because we want that to be true, or when we've actually received information that was supposed to be true that is not. So this is about discernment, which I talked about earlier, and learning to discern true and false, and trust that you are making your decisions from wisdom, which is integrative knowledge, right? Experience plus, knowledge plus experience is wisdom. So you are now, and maybe all of us have a little bit more wisdom. That's part of maturing, right? As wisdom comes from maturation. So we've experienced enough things that we can start making choices for ourselves. What's still active from the past? The goblin card. So this is our wounded selves, our wounded ego, the wounds of humanity is still active right now. So that needs sorting out, like our divisions. It's like we're really connected to one another in ways in which we can't see when we're focusing strictly on division, right? So the goblin is still active, but we can heal that by recognizing that we're all doing the best that we can, and with the information that we're given. So it's important to inform yourself in the most neutral way that you can, and you're also responsible to, I always say, you're responsible for your own triggers or your own healing, because the only person that can do that is you, right? Is the self-healing and the willingness to heal. That's the other thing, is where's the willingness to be connected to your fellow human being, right? So that's going to be also a really nice part of February, because it shows here that there's wisdom and it's about perception. Highest, yes. How do we deal with fear? So there is some evidence in February that the burden of fear, and this is about responsibility, will be on our lips and mouths, right? So we're going to be talking about these things, about, making better decisions so that our fear is quelled by being responsible, right? And not putting your head in the sand. So, and that's in all our lives in so many ways, but also realize that it's a temporary state and not everything plays out the way our fear suggests it, or the way that we're told, right? So that's another thing. Be very careful what you tune into, like on the internet and stuff. If you are looking at, doom scrolling and things like that, don't look at those things. It's really important. You don't know how things are going to really play out. You have to be present to it. So with the responsibility is through spirit, is developing a conscious contact to a higher power, recognizing that faith is much stronger than fear. So where is your faith is the question. Yeah, so we have that. There's tradition, right? So we find it through the bard, through communicating, through storytelling, through art. Like times of chaos, make art. Make art. That's what I started doing during the pandemic and never looked back, right? So this is a time for artists, community, connecting. Wonderful. This is the creativity card, the spider, protection through that, communicate, and knowing what you have learned already, but also coming back to this is like the bard is the poet, right? It's so interesting. The enchantment of storytelling, understanding history, changing history, because history doesn't tell us for sure what the future. We can be invited into similar circumstances as history has. And we can look back in history and go, okay, that's how we handled that. And that's what I think astrology is amazing for is time, is to understand what happened at that time. You know, what was going on in the world when those astrological components were in the sky, when the pattern of the planets when they were dancing in the sky, what was going on Earth. They are, there's a reflection, right? So that's an amazing thing to check out and say, I would like something different. So we also have to remember that we can co-create our future and it doesn't have to look like the past. Very, very important because we forget. And oftentimes we get our best ideas while being creative, you know, allowing ourselves to be in that 5-year-old headspace where you're finger painting or you're drawing, like my Art of Manifesting book, you're doodling, you know, and to trust that you are, your protection comes from your faith, right? And when you trust that this universe was made on purpose and you matter, I think that's what's really important. And what you do matters for the collective, right? So when you calm down and when you bring yourself into regulation and you refuse to be influenced by all that doom and gloom, and without bypassing the fact that there is real genuine chaos in this world, right? We know that that's true, but you can't do anything about it if you're freaking out. You got to go, okay, how do I get grounded? How do I get clear? What's really true for me? And then I can make the next step, one step at a time, one day at a time. What an interesting month this is going to be. Wow. All right. We'll see. We'll see. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in March. Bye. Oh, if you want more detail on your signs, you want to do that. You want to watch Deborah Silverman's in my video. That's a good one.